Hello, everyone, and welcome to another community conversation. The health crisis at
of personnel.
That's a great
Another
question,
element
and I would
respond
direct
well.
them to
We're thinking outside the box, trying to come up with new ways of
as
moving.
you already mentioned, the city is
Let's try to keep these numbers from doubling.
at over 33%.
It's really important. I'm glad. I hope you're watching at home.
First, I want to say thank you for inviting me to the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another community conversation right here on Facebook Live. I'm Mayor Eric Pappenfuss, and it's Friday at noon, so we're here live with you talking about the issues that matter in Harrisburg. We're coming up on almost our 50th show. We're going to have a little celebration here when that happens, but we've been doing this every Friday since March, and lots of great topics. Today's topic is economic development in the city of Harrisburg, and we're going to do a survey of about 25 or so projects which are currently slated for happening in the city of Harrisburg. All told, these projects represent an astounding over $600 million of investment coming to the city over the next year or two. And it's quite a list, and some of them they're in varying stages of development. Some have their land development plans already finished and are shovel ready. Others are early in the process, but we thought it'd be helpful to survey them. And we've got some great guests on today's show. We're going to have Brad Jones, who's the president and CEO of Harristown Enterprises. We're also joined by Erica Bryce, who is a partner at Midtown Redevelopment, LLP. We have Ryan Sanders, principal of RB Development, LLC. Derek Dilks, director of real estate development as part of Maury Construction. And Jonathan Bowser, managing partner of Integrative Development Partners Incorporated. They're going to talk specifically about some of their projects, and then we have other projects that we will survey. So expect an action-packed show talking about 25 projects that all told are going to bring amazing things to the city of Harrisburg. And what do these projects have in common? They have in common a vision of their developers to transform abandoned, underutilized, undeveloped, and in many cases vacant properties into thriving, wonderful places to live and work and contribute to Harrisburg's tax base and overall growth. We're really, really excited. And we'll get to them after just a couple brief announcements to start us off. I want to let everybody know we're still monitoring the COVID situation very carefully. We're getting our BioBot numbers now every other week, so we'll have an update on the testing. If you recall, last week we saw a continual pattern of a decline in the prevalence of the virus in Harrisburg, and we're very hopeful that continues and plays out. And you may have seen the school district made an announcement from this past week that they are thinking about turning at least the lower grades back to in-person learning, or at least making that an option for parents as early as April. So we'll see if the situation allows that to happen. Some general announcements, though. I want to let everybody know a little bit more about Ice in the Berg, which is coming up here on March 5th. Well, at least it's starting on Friday, March 5th. And on March 5th from 7 to 9 p.m., you can drive around City Island and you can see a variety of exciting ice sculptures. It's going to be something that you can do in the safety of your own car with your family, and it's going to be a special, sort of a winter wonderland. And I guess Momin's bringing up some images. That's not the only place where the ice sculptures are going to be, though, and they'll be out throughout the weekend, and it's going to be really neat. So come on out as well on Saturday, March 6th from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, March 7th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to be illuminating a lot of the sculptures on the first night on March 5th. At any rate, they'll be in the downtown where people are used to seeing them, but they're also going to be up in Midtown and down in Shipoke and out at Italian Lake and Reservoir Park. So there'll be a comprehensive listing of all the places where you can see the ice sculptures on the website. I'm gonna give away a few things here because they've already leaked in some of the initial promotional materials. But if you go to Shipoke, for instance, you may just see an ice sculpture of a dog dressed as a groundhog, known as Shipoke Sheenan. And if you go to Italian Lake, you may see an ice sculpture honoring our favorite white duck, commonly referred to by the neighbors as Affleck, or by my children as Alex, or whatever name you have. He's hanging in there, and he's beloved by the community, and he will soon have his own ice sculpture. So Ice in the Berg, a fun, family-friendly, safe way to enjoy the winter holiday coming up Friday, March 5th, 6th, and 7th. In general, I also want to plug our Facebook and Twitter accounts. And Momin and Saida and everybody here at the city do a really good job of getting information out. I would encourage you to follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Look for the handle at the City of HBG. You can get all the details about this meeting and city council meetings and everything else that's going on by following, and there's a lot of information. For instance, you can learn more about what's going on with City Council. They have their next legislative session coming up this Tuesday, February 23rd at 6 p.m. And as always during the pandemic, these sessions are held virtually over Zoom. But join in, and you can participate, and you can ask your questions live. So sign up and participate for the Zoom City Council. And also, one plug as well, there will be a second public meeting this coming week. This one will be held on Wednesday, February 24th at 6 p.m. to discuss the comprehensive plan. We had our first meeting hosted by Chair Dave Madsen of Harrisburg City Council, discuss the comprehensive plan this past week. It went very well. There were about a dozen participants from the community, so we thank you for tuning in. But they've only begun to unpack many of the details in the plan, so the next meeting is Wednesday, February 24th at 6 p.m. I hope people will sign in and learn more about the plan. And there'll be at least one more session coming up shortly thereafter in March. You can learn more about the plan, you can read the plan, and you can get links to the various sessions if you go to harrisburgpa.gov/comp-plan. And it's exciting. Now, the comp plan has a bold and exciting vision for Harrisburg's future. It's not something that we've had here for a generation, really for decades in Harrisburg, and so it's a long time coming. It's required a lot of input from many different people, but we're on the home stretch, and that will be approved very, very soon. And it's a good segue into our topic today. Now, once again, Momin, can you see this? Can you see this graphic in my hand? Is it possible to camera in? Okay, he's coming. He's coming. I threw him for a loop by having a graphic. But the projects that we're going to talk about here, these 25 projects, total over $600 million in investment. And let's see if we can zoom in on that number, because it's a big number and not a number that we see a lot in the city of Harrisburg. You got it there? Okay. Well, let's start with Brad Jones. And Brad, I'd like you to walk us through, I guess, three of the projects, and you've got a lot going on, but three of the projects to start us off that Harristown in particular is focused on. And let's start with 112 Market Street. I think this is a building that folks know well. But I'll let you take it away. What's going on at 112 Market Street, Brad? And welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate being on with all my fellow developer friends here. It's great to see you guys, and thanks for having us on. We hope to turn that into about 30 apartments with great river views, and keep the first and second floor as a mix of office and bank branch. It's going to be a great project. We hope to close on that here in another month or so and get started on it probably by the end of the year. And then we've got a couple other projects that I can talk about if you'd like as well.
Yeah, well, let's take them one at a time, and let's just talk briefly about 112 Market. Let me ask you a question. So, Harristown has had a lot of success over the past several years in transforming office space that has been previously really underutilized in the downtown into state-of-the-art living space. And so can you talk a little bit about how you see the housing market in Harrisburg and why you feel there's great demand for such 1- and 2-bedroom apartments?
Yeah, we have about 200 apartments now in our portfolio, Mayor, and we're very, optimistic about the demand. I think what we realize is that the city of Harrisburg's been discovered by a lot of other people around the country who realize that this is a wonderful place to live. And, we're also seeing a lot of millennials who just want to live in the city and be part of a vibrant, walkable downtown. So we continue to see great demand for, our apartment portfolio, and look forward to, putting some more interesting and, unique buildings like this one at 112 Market onto, into that portfolio. And we think they'll lease quickly.
Yeah, so a 50,000 square foot building, huge building, really, historic, beautiful windows, beautiful views, and it's going to, amazing views, I think, of the downtown and of the river, and it'd be an incredible place to live. And that would be 31 and 2 bedroom apartments coming potentially for the spring of 2023. And I guess it's you're planning something somewhat similar at our second project that we're going to spotlight here, which is the Menaker apartment building nearby around the corner at 17 South 2nd Street. Can you tell us a little bit about that project, Brad?
Sure. This is a project that we've got right on the agenda right now. We're going through, kind of all the final estimating for the cost of this project. And we've hired Mallory Construction to be our contractor on this, and we're getting ready to start on this in May, and probably take about 10 or 11 months to finish it. It is just a gorgeous historic structure that Harristown actually owned in the 1980s and renovated as an office building back then, and then it's gotten sold a couple times since then. We were lucky enough to buy it back in 2018, and looking forward to really going to keep the first floor for a magnificent first floor restaurant opportunity, and the upper floors 2 through 6 into a very interesting Art Deco style apartment, very similar to the Art Deco style that we used for the Fox on Washington down at 236 South 2nd Street.
Yeah, the Fox on Washington certainly looking beautiful. I think of that transformation of that building every time I'm entering the city and coming in. It's a much more beautiful gateway now since its renovation. So I guess 28 apartments planned then for Menaker. When you add that to the 30 for 112 Market Street, you're looking at almost 60 apartments. That's 60 plus new residents that will be coming to the city, new taxpayers contributing to our tax base and the vibrancy of our city. I may ask all of the developers this question, but can you talk a little bit about, why now? I'm sure people watching are thinking, hey, we're in the midst of a pandemic. The economy is where it is. Now we're all optimistic that we're going to be moving out of that as we hit the summer and the fall. But it certainly hasn't slowed down your desire to invest in Harrisburg. So talk about the timing a little bit, Brad.
Sure. Yeah. We continue to, be optimistic about the demand here. We continue to see strong demand. We continue to see, just a really big interest in the city of Harrisburg. I'm delighted to be on this panel with, so many of our fellow developers here. There's so many new players that are getting into the development of the city. So, it's great to see. I think the demand's extremely strong, and the real estate market here in the city is about as good as I've ever seen it, both on the rental apartment side and on the for sale side, which is also just exploding.
Yeah, absolutely. And, people, there's a lot of focus on hopefully upgrading the quality of living conditions in Harrisburg, of taking some of these buildings with great bones and historic roots, but turning them into really, investing in them and putting the money in them so that they can become really what they should become. We're looking at a total investment cost on just those two buildings alone of $14 million. And as I say, they're both historic structures, and they're both contribute to our streetscape downtown. Now, those two projects are essentially empty office buildings being transformed into vibrant new living spaces. The third project you're going to talk a little bit about today is different. It is new construction, and it is basically the old Cornet building at 21 South 2nd Street. So talk a little bit about your vision for that space, Brad.
Sure. Yeah, this is the building in between that would a new building that would go in between the Crown Plaza and the Menaker building. It would be about a 6-story new construction complex. What we have planned here is a very small little sort of pocket lot, and unfortunately, we did have to tear the Cornet down because it was in such bad shape. But we're really excited to fill that fabric in with a new building, mix of office, retail, and residential. This project will probably follow the other two, but it's going to be a great new addition to that block. And again, we'll add not only some apartments but also some offices and a first floor retail opportunity as well. Be almost a $5 million project, and it'll pair up really nicely with the other two. So we're really excited about we're taking that one through land development right now.
Right. And as we mentioned, each of these projects in different stages. We're going to talk about some that are, all ready to go, and others that are still in the land development project, but they're all coming. Can you talk a little bit, Brad, about the difference between doing a new construction project in the city of Harrisburg versus doing a renovation project?
Sure. Yeah. We're excited to be doing some new construction here with the Coronet project there. It is, we've spent most of the last of our, 20 years here focusing on renovation projects, actually. And, so it is exciting to see both, new construction with some of what we're doing, but also some of my colleagues here on the panel who are doing new construction. I think the new construction tends to be a little more expensive, and it is, a little trickier sometimes in some of these tight situations like 21, but we're seeing, I think, a lot more new construction coming into the pipeline in the city, and that is very exciting.
It is. It's incredibly exciting. And when it's infill construction like that, you're literally rebuilding a streetscape that in some instances was lost or unsalvageable due to a neglect or disinvestment, and bringing the back downtown, especially back to the vibrancy which it once had and which it will have again. So thanks for that, Brad. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about some of the other projects happening in this city at the end of the panel. So you'll be back with us, but thanks for introducing those three. And it's a good segue to our next guest, who is Erica Bryce, partner at Midtown Redevelopment LLP. So we're moving north now in the city into the Capitol Heights area to talk a little bit about a vision there for an area of the city which has been long vacant. And while it has a strong residential neighborhood base that surrounds it, there's a great opportunity here to create some new development that enhances the neighborhood. So, Erica, talk to us a little bit about your plans and your partner's plans for this area of what we'll call Capitol Heights. We're at 3rd and Hamilton and Logan and Clinton specifically. And Melman will bring up some graphics while you're talking.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and thanks for this opportunity. So we're focused on Midtown area. Midtown has long been near and dear to my heart personally. I have a current business there, the City House Bed and Breakfast, lived there a number of years, and have some other rental properties in the area. So we're excited to, as Brad had mentioned, do new development. So what we're going to be doing on around the 1600 block of 3rd Street, we have proposed a 4-story building that will have a first floor community center with 12 apartments above it. And then behind that on Logan will be 8 townhomes. And we're looking at, there'll be 4 on one side and then 4 on the other. The townhomes will, I think it's exciting to have some new construction in Midtown, townhomes that are 4-bedroom, 3.5 baths, 2-car garage, decks off the kitchen. It's things that people want to see in the city that's not currently available, and it's actually been pretty exciting. We've done Midtown Town Hall by Zoom, And afterwards, several people had reached out to me wanting to get on the list for one of these townhomes, people who already own homes in Midtown and who rent. And then we had a pop-up event in August, kind of, it was important for us to solicit a lot of community feedback from the area and what people want to see. And that's how the idea came out to do the community center. And then also people at that event were saying, yes, I'd love to get a new townhome that has a garage. So actually, we've already got a list going, which is interesting. We're hoping to break ground in May, June, likely starting on the townhomes and then going to the 4-story building on 3rd.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. In a moment, you can scroll through some of the pictures. Let's talk about Let's talk about the community center first. If you go to that first graphic moment, because I think it's really interesting that you all have chosen to begin what is going to be a multi-phase development of an entire neighborhood with a community center. And I know you've done that very thoughtfully and in conversation with the neighborhood. But talk a little bit more about why. I mean, it's unusual, I think, for a developer to start with a community center at the heart of a project.
Well, we did our pop-up in August, and just talking with people, and as city residents ourselves, we've just seen a real need for something like that in the city, in the community, and particularly in Midtown. It's going to be about 4,500 square feet of space that will be forming a nonprofit, which will have an independent board, and we're looking for people in the neighborhood to serve on the board, who will, make decisions and help run this. And so it's very much a community-based and community-run initiative for that portion. And I think it's important, especially when we get out on the other side of this COVID situation, people are going to want to be together more than ever. We miss that human interaction with groups of people, and this will be the perfect thing to kind of get everybody back together again. And we're really going to need that.
I agree, and I think the civic life, empowering community organizations, nonprofits at the heart of all that grassroots activism is critical to Harrisburg. I think you're seeing a lot of renewed interest in that type of engagement. You'll see it, as you say, when we start moving out of COVID. People are really desperate for that. Just so everyone understands what we're talking about an area which is currently a community garden, but I think you have big plans to improve upon the garden and to actually make it even more vital for the neighborhood. Can you talk about the community garden?
Yes, thank you. So if you're driving down 3rd Street right now, heading north, you'll see on the right a community garden space with where the Black Lives Matter mural is. And that's on the side of the Harrisburg Improv Theater building. And the owners of that building, Jake and Summers, we've gotten to know in doing this project, and they're very much in support of this. Our plan there, we will be relocating the community garden to a section that's basically an urban meadow, a walkway that's going to connect 3rd and 4th Streets. And so we're going to relocate the community garden with approval of the people who are currently running it. They're very excited about it because right now it's not an easily delineated plot plan. You have to go through other people's gardens to get to your own. So what we're doing is we're making a long space that will be accessible from the urban meadow, that will be easier to access your plot of land. It will have water, electricity, so we'll have more space to include things like that, hopefully like a tool shed that people can use and borrow, implements from. And so it's going to add a lot of beauty along the urban meadow, but also be very functional for the people who do garden there. So we're enhancing that and improving that in the move. But what's going to happen then, the first floor of the community center, then, well, it's on the first floor, but when you enter, there'll be a wall of windows to your left, which will highlight the mural. I don't know, not a lot of people know this, but the mural there, it's a rotating mural space that every 2 years, they'll have a new mural come up there. So there's going to be a walkway between the community center and the Harrisburg Improv Theater that allows you to walk past the mural. But when you're in the community center, there'll be a wall of windows to highlight and see the mural on display. So we actually think it'll get a lot more viewing that way.
Yeah, that's great, and the work that many have done to create murals throughout the city is it's just been fantastic, and the fact that everybody is working to sort of incorporate those into projects and indeed expand our sort of mural network, I think is a great sense of community building. I also think it's very clever to use a community garden as connective tissue. So between the as this you call it an urban meadow or a green walkway that leads you back to these other developments. But let's just look quickly, I guess, at the other part, which is the townhouses, because that is exceptional. It's not just a plan for apartments and community space. It's also to bring people what they want. In a moment, if you could bring up the graphic for the townhomes, you'll see I think first you can see sort of the idea of what they'd look like. This will be the first new townhome construction in this area in a generation, really in a long time. And then you can see the plan for parking. And I think having garage space in the city is key. It's key both from appealing to potential homeowners, but also for sort of managing the impact of the growing population in an area where parking is already tight. Would you like to talk a little bit about the townhomes and why you have a mix of townhomes and apartments in your overall plan?
Yeah, so I personally, as a city resident and homeowner, I think it's really important to have home ownership opportunities. There is a lot of development going on, but in addition to rentals, home ownership in the city really it's important for the fabric of a community, that you have people who live in the neighborhood and who own their home and own their property. It's those kind of people who kind of really kind of look around and what's happening on my street. Let's take care to know your neighbors and look out for one another and kind of improve your property and take care of it. So I think it's really important to, in addition to rental opportunities, to have home ownership opportunities. And we're looking here to really have a good price point for, perhaps first-time home buyers or people who already have a home in the city and would like to have a garage, like to have more space. We have 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths with a 2-car garage and a deck off the kitchen. So a lot of nice living space. And then there's going to be green space around in the area. We've incorporated some pervious pavers to manage water runoff. So we're trying to really be green and comprehensive with this plan. And our plan is to have 3 different levels of finishes so people can choose what they'd like to see to modify it to their own personal tastes. And that's been really exciting. And like I said, some people have already reached out. And if you'd actually like to get your name on a list, info@livehbg.com. Little plug in there if you're curious and interested.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. One final question for you, Erica, and I think you already mentioned the timeline, and you've also made it clear that, or maybe I'll make it clear that this is really the first phase of what could be a series of phases that your development LLC is looking at for the whole area. A lot of the property which has sat vacant, empty lots, some of those white fenced areas that people inquire about all the time. Are now potentially it's the right time to develop. So can you speak, as I asked Brad to speak, to why now? Why now? Literally for the last decade, there hasn't been a lot of interest, and now there is. So can you explain, what is the appeal from your perspective as a developer, and why is this the right moment?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So my husband and I moved into the city in Capitol Heights neighborhood, actually in November of '94, dating myself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since we moved in, it's just always felt like Harrisburg's right on the verge. We're on the verge. And now I just feel like the time has never been better. We personally have some of our some rental units, and they're never vacant. Someone gives us notice that they're going to be moving out, and we have a tenant ready lined up before they leave. So there is a demand there. And then talking with friends and realtors, with the housing crisis, people don't just want to rent, they want to own a home in the city. So that's why it just seems like a perfect time. And then I have to give a shout out and give kudos to our partner, Matt Long. His company, he has another business, Harrisburg Commercial Interiors, and we worked with him recently on a project on Locust Street. We took, it was a previous, it was a building that had been a nonprofit organization that had moved out, and it was vacant for at least a year. And we purchased the property and renovated it for commercial space, and then Merit Marketing moved into that. And it was working with Matt on that project that we realized, oh, hey, this is a good partner. He shares a great vision for Harrisburg as well. So working with him, it's just been very, it's been a really good experience. And if you've been on North Street, you've seen his work too with the elementary coffee building that he did. And going back to 94, when we moved into the city, that building for 25 years was abandoned and at risk of falling down. And he took it and made it beautiful and created a nice anchor there on North Street. So it just seems like great timing with need, people interested in the city. I don't know if everyone's seen the article came out a few weeks ago. Harrisburg is on the top 10 list of best real estate markets in the country. I mean, and we were one of few on the East Coast, and we were along with major cities. So I think people are finally, outside of Harrisburg, are discovering how great Harrisburg is, to Brad's point, what he was mentioning also. And with COVID, I think like fleeing the bigger cities like New York and things like that, you can come to have the amenities of a city, but also the river, the parks, and be close to other metropolitan areas, in a few hours drive. So Harrisburg is just really, it's very desirable. It's very attractive. So I think giving different housing opportunities is going to be important so that we can, attract and keep and maintain, really good residents in the city.
Yeah, thanks for that, Eric. I agree completely. We've really moved up that list, and I think I think the moment is now. And clearly, with $600 million in planned projects here for the next couple of years, you know that a lot of people believe in that. We're going to turn next to Ryan. Ryan Sanders is joining us. He's the principal of RB Development LLC, and we're going to talk about a project now that the city has helped put some dollars behind. And when it comes to us being custodians of our federal dollars, we scrutinize projects very carefully, and we're looking for opportunities that will assist in creating potentially spaces, affordable spaces for our residents and our seniors, and that's how we try and invest what's called home dollars, or dollars that come from the federal government to help with housing. One project that we're investing in is Ryan's project at Bethel Village, which is at 6th and Hurst Street. So, Ryan, why don't you talk us a little bit about that project and how that's going to help transform, and how it's adding yet another dimension to what we're talking about. Now we're talking about new construction, but we're talking about construction that's focused on our seniors.
Mayor, thank you for having me. We appreciate this opportunity. The Bethel Village project is actually the third phase of the entire Jackson Square project that's located at the 1000 block of North 6th Street. A little bit of historical background on that particular block. It used to be the Black Wall Street of Harrisburg, in which African-American entrepreneurs had lined that block for a number of years. So the block actually had fell blighted for a number of years, probably close to about 4 decades. And we were able to start working with a team of individuals to start fixing up these blighted projects one by one. And obviously, as you see here, the Bethel Village project is a large portion of that. This is a $13.7 million project, which would be 49 units for ages 62 and older, low income, affordable units. We really think that if we provide deeply affordable units, that this would be a great benefit to the overall community down there, in which they'll still be able to enjoy the downtown Interplex and some of the great amenities of the area, but also have a nice household if they were looking to downsize and as our renter base starts to grow increasingly older. This project is great as well too because it fits within the city's comprehensive plan that was done a number of years ago. And we've fallen behind in a number of affordable units and affordable projects to be completed. So this fits right in line with what that looks to happen. We have a great team down there as well. The Bethel AME, which the Bethel Village Church that used to stand there, burned down in 1995. And it's really a pillar for the community as the history of it dated back to the Underground Railroad with some of the Civil War colored troops and being served as a hub there for a number of years. So we were able to rename it as the Bethel Village and put together this great project in which we're looking to now add potentially another 3 units of commercial space there to open up the commercial aspect of it and to really provide a great space.
Yeah, thanks for that overview. Moment, if you go to the next slide, it sort of pans out and you can get a little better sense of the overall corner there that we're talking about. Now, this is the area where tragically we had the collapse recently of the Jackson Hotel, but the area next to the hotel has long been vacant, and the project was originally planned for that, which was the site of the Bethel AMA Church at one time. Talk, Ryan, a little bit about the challenges of being a developer who is trying to do quality, affordable housing and is looking for partnerships, with PHFA, the city, others to get the available, financing in line. It's a little different from the other types of projects that we've seen. So can you speak to that?
Well, what I found out, one of our affordable development partners, Ms. Ava Goldman, who was the former president of the Michaels Development Corp., she told me, Ryan, building affordable housing isn't affordable. And that's probably been one of the more interesting challenges as opposed to doing all market rate projects is how you raise the capital stack or the funds that's needed to complete these projects. A lot of the money that is available out there, there are a lot of other projects that are going for this type of money. So you have to be very creative in your approach and really understand what the social impact of this particular project will be as to why you kind of push to get to the end of the goal. Because, when you're charging affordable rents, they're considerably lower than what you will receive on a market rate. So you need some sort of subsidy to be able to fill in the gaps with that. So again, we truly do appreciate the monetary support with this particular project. And I think it will really pay dividends and set a trend as well for other projects to go affordable as well.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. And, I'll say, for one, I think we need housing stock of all types in the city for a whole variety of income levels. We absolutely need more affordable housing, and we need senior housing. But our housing study shows great demand across every spectrum in the city. And our future sustainability as a city really requires increasing our population and our tax base back to the levels of where we were in the 1950s and 60s, which was much denser than where we are now. Actually, the infrastructure exists to support it, and the bones are there. But let's also mention that you have other projects in the works. You've got your eyes on a number of different things. We won't discuss all of them, but let's move to one more project, and let's move out of this area of the city into a new area of the city and talk a little bit about Cornish Heights, an area that we've toured together and talked about and that has great potential. What can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. And once again, Mayor, we appreciate your support with it, working with the Harrisburg RDA and the group folks down there that actually really taking a holistic approach and taking a serious look at affordable housing and the vision within Allison Hill. I, like Erica, when I first came to the city, I relocated there in 2004, 2005, dating myself back. But I moved to this area of the city that I felt was very similar to where I was coming from in Philadelphia, called Allison Hill. I looked around, I said, this is a Civil War museum around the corner. They got all these nice parks and basketball courts. But I found out very quickly that Allison Hill has some areas that definitely deserve some love and attention in terms of the residents. So, this particular affordable development, Cornish Heights, is going to be a 30-unit development consisting of 30 units And the units will be broken out 15 affordable. 5 of them will be designated as handicap accessible as well. And the other 15 will go market rate as it stands currently. Our partners here are Paladin Development, which is the development arm of the Harrisburg Housing Authority, along with the People's Development Corporation, which is the largest African-American development company in the country, to provide a certain level of housing that we don't think that is available on the affordable side to Harrisburg residents. You know, this property had been blighted for a number of years, and everything is going on up there, you know, to really disregard the overall neighborhood. But I think that with this particular project, we'll be able to sink close to about $6 million of investment back there. It will take a little bit of time to raise some of the additional funds that's needed. But I really think it served a great purpose in our community, and we're dedicating it back to Ms. Vera Cornish, who was a pillar in our community for a number of years. She was a famed motivator and entrepreneur, and started a paper called The Urban Connection. And she shared great love for access and opportunity for not just African-American entrepreneurs, but all people across the city. So this would be a great way to provide, you know, something towards her legacy that I think will be fulfilling and will really help out a lot of people within the community.
Yeah, and Ryan, tell folks watching exactly where we are. Obviously, you're redubbing it or naming it Cornish Heights after Vera Cornish, but where are we geographically in Allison Hill?
Geographically, we are near the Market Street corridor, right off of 1175 Bailey Street. It was a dead-end property for a number of years. Like I said, it's been blighted. You know, we really take pride in actually getting this one cleaned up, but it's a great part of Allison Hill that once we cut down some of the shrubbery, we'll be able to open up some of the skyline downtown views of both the Capitol and the Interplex, and really provide a certain level of a housing that I don't think is available on a particular economical scale.
Right. It's currently a sort of cul-de-sac at the end of Bailey Street, which unfortunately now is a site of illegal dumping and other types of activities. It's on land that is controlled by the Redevelopment Authority, but it's on a bluff basically overlooking the downtown. It's got incredible views. It's an area where if we can put some investment in, it's really going to have a positive ripple effect on the supporting neighborhood around it. And we're excited. We're excited for that. We're excited for your projects. Let me and with you, Ryan, just let me get your perspective on the why now question, because I've asked that of our other developers. We're thrilled that you're here. Thrilled that you're focused on affordable housing. I know the need's there, but why is the moment right?
Well, you know, that's where opportunity comes in as well. And I think right now, with us being an African-American owned company, you're seeing a lot of different corporations that are looking to move the social needle as well, too. So I think the timing of it is appropriate. And, you know, we think that with our intentions being of a good character and substance, that, you know, provides an opportunity for different corporations to invest in this particular opportunity and really see some good done.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us, and we're gonna go next to Derek Dilks, who is Director of Real Estate Development at Mowry Construction. Derek, I'm really excited to get you on and to talk about some of your projects, all of which you're doing a lot at the moment. So we'll go through a few of these quickly. But let's start with 234 North 3rd Street. What's going on there?
Sure, 234 North 3rd. And thanks for having me, Mayor. Sure. It's a pleasure to be here with my colleagues in the city doing good development. So 234 North 3rd, there's a common theme in the several properties that I'm developing that are typically on the smaller side comparatively. Mm-hmm. They're all either vacant or underutilized, mostly office space. So this particular property is empty. This is going to be a mixed use of residential live work. So we're going to have 3 floors of apartments where you have the option to live and also have it be your office. So which is a little bit of a unique amenity in cities now. You're seeing spaces that can be used for both, the dual purpose, so to speak. It's a great historic building right on North 3rd Street in front of the Capitol. So we're excited about it. It's a smaller one, but it's impactful.
Sure. If I could just emphasize what you said, what we've heard so far today, and it's going to be true for Jonathan Bowser's project as well, we're looking at vacant properties. We are looking at properties which aren't contributing, which in fact in many ways are hindering property values by being vacant. And nobody's being displaced. And what you're starting to see is new investment and new development, which is going to sort of raise the property values for everyone. I know that sometimes there's a concern about gentrification, but that is not what is occurring here. What is occurring here is basically properties being brought up to their highest and best use. Again, no displacement. We're looking at vacant properties being developed, and there's probably no better example of that than the next one I want to talk about, which really I have to say is extraordinary. And that is the Methodist Church repurposing for 260 Boa Street. Now, this was a sad moment last year when the Methodist Conference announced that it was going to be closing and consolidating many of its churches. But this is something that has been happening in urban centers throughout the country for quite some time. The reality is that there are a lot of these older church buildings which are very expensive to maintain and rehabilitate. They're dwindling congregations, and there's a lot of consolidation that goes on. Many cities are dealing with this issue, and very few have seen successful adaptive reuses of churches into residential projects. And when I saw this come along at an estimated investment of over $1 million, I thought to myself, well, this is truly exciting. We have a lot of potential buildings that this could be a model for. So let's talk about it. How are you planning to repurpose a church into an amazing living space and apartment space?
Yeah, this is a really great example of one of those projects in a city that kind of every single issue you can imagine being tough to overcome. This embodies that. But yeah, it's a 0 lot line property, no parking. It's a beautiful old historic church. Mm-hmm. And it's just really, really tough to make the numbers work and adaptive reuse. But thank goodness there's something called federal historic preservation tax credits. So that's where you get 20% of a federal income tax credit for every dollar you spend. So that does really help. The rest of this project is being funded privately with private equity and bank financing. So that really does help. But yeah, so what we're doing is we're going to take the sanctuary space, which has 25-foot beautiful cathedral ceiling, stained glass, and we're going to make that 4 and cut it into basically 4 quadrants. So there'll be 4 apartments in the former sanctuary space. And then downstairs also, we're going to do 4 apartments on the first floor of the space. And we're going to create some really nice amenity space in the basement of the church. It's a great building, very historic. This was actually rebuilt in 1881. It was originally built at this site, and we haven't nailed down the exact original construction date for the church that was there originally, but it was United Brethren Church. It was a Methodist church from the onset. It was in the early to mid 1800s. But yeah, it's just a really great project. There is a possibility that we're going to put a bakery on the ground floor as an additional amenity to the community. As many of you know, this area, the city has a lot going on with 0 day and everything that is going on in Midtown. So I think it's just it's in the right place at the right time. It needs to be redeveloped, and I'm really excited about it. The inspiration for this actually was a church I saw in Washington D.C. that was very comparable in size and scope, and the developer in D.C. did a beautiful job renovating this church. And I think you're going to see this more, as you said, Mayor. It's going to be a common theme in urban settings where churches just can't hang on due to the extreme expenses for maintaining these properties. But all it takes is a few tenants that will appreciate the architecture and quality of construction of these projects to make them work as adaptive reuse projects. So that's what we're attempting to do here.
Wow, I can't imagine a more beautiful giant, floor-to-ceiling window illuminating apartment space than you might have the potential for here. And I'm just really excited to see how this turns out because it could bode well. These are historic structures. They're structures that have to be adaptively reused to survive. And you're putting in the investment here into this church, and I think we'll all watch very closely. And I know there's parking that you have nearby, and I think it'll be a great addition. You're also not too far away doing similar transformations. Again, you're taking buildings that are largely vacant and you're transforming them into living spaces. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening on State Street and also what's going to be happening on Front Street. Those projects are, I think, pretty much all the way through, right? I mean, they are moving very quickly. So these are projects that will come to fruition this year. Okay.
All these projects have made it through
Yep.
the hurdles of planning and zoning. We do have our formal land development process that's just kind of more like a rubber stamp, if you will, to go through the LD process for what zoning and planning have already approved. So yeah, so we're shovel ready, so to speak. We've already started in some cases. State Street's underway. We're permitted on State Street. But again, a common theme. There's 2 buildings on State Street and 2 buildings on Front Street. They were originally beautiful single family homes. They were since converted to other uses, whether it's offices or whether it was, in the case of one of the Front Street buildings, it was called a C house for the church, for St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. So all these properties were vacant at the time of acquisition, and we're going to be repurposing to their highest and best use. Some of these properties do have a mixed use component. We are providing, again, some professional office space as a component to the residential. So they're not all 100% apartments. We are activating some of the ground floor spaces as office. Some of them have parking, some of them don't. But again, these are all historic properties that we feel we're putting them in their highest and best use. When they were built, the highest and best use was a single family home.
Right.
And then in the 70s, the highest and best use was an office. And today we feel it's a mixed use of office and apartments.
Yeah. And I would agree with you. And I would also say that you are preserving these buildings, which are integral to our historic fabric and our historic structure. And so in order to do that and to put the investment, we've got to return them to their highest and best use. And you're to be commended for the investment. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So thank you, Derek, for sharing those projects. And we're going to go next to Jonathan Bowser, as mentioned, managing partner of Integrated Development Partners Incorporated. And Jonathan, you've got quite the empty building to try and transform here. And this is the old Salvation Army building. It should be noted that the city and a lot of others put a lot of time and energy into helping find resources to finance a new Salvation Army building. It moved to a different part of the city, and where it is vibrant and has been helping throughout every day in COVID, and serves as a real hub for all of central Pennsylvania for the Salvation Army's activities. But while a new building was constructed, there was always a question of what would happen to the old building. And the old building, I imagine, has challenges. For instance, you're looking at a massive a massive structure with a gymnasium and all sorts of things. So talk about the appeal of this building, Jonathan, and what you're hoping to do there at what we're calling the Lofts.
Sure. Thank you, Marion. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for my colleagues here. I'm really excited about, seeing all your projects come to fruition. I think they're all great for the city of Harrisburg and for the region. Here at the project that we've dubbed the Lofts is at the corner of Green Street and Cumberland in Midtown. And as the mayor noted, it was the former Salvation Army building. A few years back, when they vacated this building and went out to 29th Street, we took a look at it. At the time. We just didn't feel like it was the appropriate project for us for several reasons. And over the years, there had been, a few developers that, took a look at it and, either couldn't get past planning and zoning, or, I know the last developer, COVID had hit and they decided to kind of back out. And that kind of created an opportunity for us. very similar to what Erica said earlier. The way that we see this project is, we think home ownership is very important in every community, especially in urban communities. The majority of this neighborhood, there's homeowners. I've spoken to a lot of them. And one of the things that we really noticed, and I've talked to a lot of my colleagues, such as Brad and I have talked about this as well. There's not a lot of condos in the city of Harrisburg. You start to see a lot in Lancaster, and of course you see some in some of the other cities around us. And one of the things that we have started to see in the region, and we do projects all throughout central Pennsylvania, is we see a lot of medical. We see a lot of young professionals who are looking to move here to the area. Not all of them are looking to rent. Some of them are looking to actually own. And we see a real shortage in the market, and we see a real shortage in particular in the city of Harrisburg for condos. And so our intent is to make these all condos anywhere from 700 up to about 1,300 square feet. There's probably going to be 3 or 4 of those condos that will be a 2-story loft in the gymnasium area. So that'd be really nice. We see this as a market rate project for us. We have recently received approval from the zoning hearing board. So this is a project that we are going through the process of land development now, and that we have slated to start sometime later this year. Hopefully with occupancy probably Q2 of 2022. So we're really excited about the project. This is a project that is currently off the tax rolls, so it'd be really good to get it back on the tax rolls, to be able to provide some tax base, continued tax base for the city kind of moving forward, and then also take an empty building and have it occupied with homeowners that I think will help with the fabric of the neighborhood. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. Similar to the church in the sense of taking a older public building that's tax exempt and putting it back onto the tax rolls. Jonathan, can you talk a little bit about why now? I know you mentioned that others have tried and failed with this building. It is a difficult building in the sense that it was, built clearly for an institutional use. But why is the timing right for you?
Timing's right for us. I think, we're just seeing a movement. We're seeing a movement in central PA. We're seeing a movement in the city of Harrisburg. We're seeing a lot of people that are, moving from New York and Baltimore and DC and some of the larger cities surrounding us. And with telework being the way that it is now, and a lot of them think that that's going to continue in the future, kind of post-COVID. They're realizing that, Harrisburg's a really viable option for them, and they can get, to some of the larger cities, with an hour or 2 drive. That still makes it very, very, very convenient. We're also seeing a continued surgence in medical, whether it's UPMC, Penn State. I know with their West Shore campus, they're looking to expand it before they even, finish construction. And so we continue to see a lot of meds come into the area. HU continues to grow. And so for us, we see the continued wave and the growth here in central PA and in the city. And we also realize that there's a lack of inventory. And I think, probably all my colleagues can attest to that, that lack of inventory that's there. I mean, when we have units, as Erica said, you get one tenant who gives a notice, and before you get the next tenant, before you get that tenant out, you already have it released. And so I think just that growth has been really good to see. You're seeing rents continually increase, and you're seeing purchase prices continually increase. So I think those are all really good signs, and we don't see things slowing down. Interest rates are really good right now for home ownership, and so I think there's a lot of positive momentum that I think we're all trying to ride the wave on.
Thanks for that, Jonathan. This has been a great discussion, and I know we only got to speak to 5 developers here, and there are many more on the list, but we'll have continuing conversations, and we have already had shows in the past. I think what I want to do, though, moment is just to give people, because we promised a sense of the $600 million. I want to do a relatively just quick run through of some of the other things that are happening in the city. And if people are watching and they'd like more information on any of these projects, let us know, and we'll have those developers on as well to give more information. So we'll start here with the Hudson Building. That's on 6th and Maclay. We'll call it the Atlas. An $8 million project. It is underway. Adam Most, who's with Mighty Group Holdings, he's been on the show before. And if you look at that building now, you'll see that they've done a lot of demo, and they're doing, there's dumpsters and trucks leaving every day. There's doing a lot of investment and work in that building, and it could be a real cornerstone anchor. We go further down the street, really, one street up on North 7th Street. I think everyone sees what's going on there with the new state office building from Hudson Companies. That's a $25 million plus building. It is going up very, very quickly. And is clearly going to be an amazing thing for that sector in the city. Going to bring a lot of new jobs and a lot of new workers that are going to be relocating from the state hospital grounds. If we go next, we've had Sengor on a few times to talk about his projects, but this is a very interesting project, not too far from Ryan's project on 6th Street, 6th and Verbeck, where in front of the high rise, we're looking at developing new affordable housing opportunities right in what is currently a parking lot and right on the street there on 6th Street. That's a $14 million project, and that is moving along in the planning. That's going to be great. Another one that you may have heard about has not yet gone through the planning, but is really exciting, is the Midtown Flats project for Riley Street, a $25 million project. Well underway, got some state funding through the RCAP, and that's a project that is partnership between Greenworks Development and Doug Neidick and Washington Place Equities. You're going to hear a lot more about that as we move forward. And it's really in sync with the next project on the list, which has to do with the new proposed parking garage for this sector of the city. This project via Kevgar Holdco is not only a parking garage, but it has retail, it has a apartment component, and it's really trying to address the potential parking issues that are coming with the federal courthouse, which is being built not too far from there. Again, a project on a largely vacant lot currently, which when transformed is going to be amazing. Now, this project goes before the zoning hearing board on Monday, so we will hopefully it will receive the approval it's seeking there and be ready to go here quickly, at least in sync with the courthouse. And the courthouse is looking to open next year, and I know they're moving. A couple projects that are happening downtown that people may not know about. I want to come back to you just real quick with you, if you could, Brad, to talk a little bit about the Forum Building and what's going on there. That's $60 million that's going on right across from Strawberry Square. And can you talk about what you think the impact of that project is going to be on the downtown?
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. You know, that project, that building, the Forum Theater was renovated several years ago. And this $60 million that you mentioned here on that slide, that's actually just going to redo that entire office building. It's sort of a bookend with the finance building, that kind of right up on Soldiers Grove. So, essentially that building will be entirely gutted except for the Forum Theater, and then be reoccupied by the Commonwealth. It's been basically vacant for the last 10 years. So it's a big deal. Wolson just got the contract for that, and they're just starting that project right now. So fully occupied state building in the next couple of years that's been vacant for at least a decade.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know with COVID and a lot of people working from home that that there aren't as many people downtown as there would be normally. But with projects like this coming and the new other state office building that we just mentioned, and us getting to the other side of the pandemic, boy, we're going to see a huge boom in the number of workers in the downtown very soon. So a lot to look forward to there. And I'll jump back in. I think folks know about the archives, but if you haven't driven down 6th Street yet, you really, I mean, it's going up quickly. Let's put it that way. That is a $68 million project. That's something that we fought. I personally fought very, very hard for to keep in the city rather than have it relocate into the suburbs. Again, all these projects, the thing they seem to have in common is vacant, underutilized spaces being transformed into something that's going to really contribute. That building is, of course, going to house the city archives. We talked about that on our historical show a couple weeks ago, and we're really excited about the fact that they are preserving and cataloging the city's documentary records. Next door, of course, the federal courthouse, also still slated for completion in the summer of 2022. May get pushed back a little bit, but not too much, I would think. And that's in also on the same time frame as our renovations of 7th Street and a few other things that are happening in that corridor. Those buildings are coming up, and boy, that's $193 million right there just in the courthouse in terms of that investment. A few other things we want to mention. And I guess we can give a shout out to Vice Capital and Matt Long for the work they've done on the Swallow Mansion, which is located as part of that historic Jackson Square block. And another blighted property, which I'm not sure people really understand, but we're fortunate that FNB Bank, we'll go to the next one moment, in the downtown is looking to expand, to demolish and to create a new structure there in one of the few instances of continued blight in the downtown. So that's coming, and that's a $4 million project, and that is going to allow FNB to expand even further. And then going back out to Old Uptown, a project that's still in the early stages of developing, but we have the former S&A lots, not to be confused with the Capitol Heights lots that Erica and her company are working on. But this is a little bit further south and on the other side of Riley Street there. And Seven Bridges has a number of projects in the works there, totaling $4.5 million for, again, some of the underutilized and blighted lots in that section. We can go down on Cameron Street as well in the industrial corridor. We haven't talked about the industrial corridor yet on this show, but there Matt Long gets a shout out there as well for the renovation that he's done of the old abandoned sort of Cameron Street industrial site there, which is being transformed, and that's a Harrisburg Commercial Interiors project and another partnership with the Redevelopment Authority. We will just mention the Jackson House Hotel. There's going to be, we tragically lost the mural, but there's an opportunity to rebuild there, and that's an exciting possibility. I wanted to give a shout out to the Carpet and Draperies building because I've spoken to Nathaniel Foote, and I think Matt Long's involved in that one as well. But that is a great opportunity here. That is an abandoned building, a very sort of large old commercial space building, which Nathaniel, longtime resident, has sort of been walking by for the last decade. Finally decided, you know what, he's going to do something about it, and he's going to live there and renovate it, to be an owner-occupied apartment building. And that's the type of, just really sort of inspiring story of a local Harrisburg entrepreneur. He happens to be a lawyer that is taking a building and going to try and turn it into something really positive. I'm excited about that. I think it's a great, again, it's one of the few really blighted and underutilized buildings still in that section. A shout out to Tarek and TLC Construction. Tarek Castile has been on the show several times, and we'll have him back again. But boy, the Cornerstone he's got a couple of projects going on. This is actually on 5th and Kelker Street. He's got another one in Allison Hill, and these are great apartment projects that have been approved and that are moving to fruition. And next, we've got the 0 Day project. I don't know if everybody knows this. It's been mentioned already on the show, but this is a section of 3rd Street. This is a WCI Partners project, completely transforming that historic structure there and giving 0 Day a chance to really grow and expand. That's going to be a game changer for that section of the Midtown Market District. And we're really excited about that project. That's coming to completion. I think was slowed a little bit by COVID, but is now, almost done. So that's a $2 million project. And I think we'll end today's show moment just by once again giving a shout out to Harrisburg University. Because that $100 million project is still very much going. It's changed a few times over the past year. It's gotten a little bit squatter. It's had some redesigns, but it is still moving essentially as an academic space for nursing programs, pharmaceutical sciences, health programs. It's going to allow Harrisburg University to finally meet the educational needs, and when you have that as the sort of educational foundation of a lot of the industries that are growing in that corridor of the city, that's going to be a real boon. Now, that's just the tip of the iceberg with projects. These are ones that are all going through the planning process. But there's much more happening throughout every area of the city, and we'll continue to try and spotlight those and talk about the economic development in the city. But this is the type of real progress that we're seeing here in Harrisburg, and it's a moment. It's a moment now where a lot of things are going to come to fruition once and I think we'll be able to really jumpstart the economy from an economic development perspective once we move out of COVID and towards the end of the year. So if you're watching at home, I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about those projects. Moment, I'm going to turn it to you to see if we have a few questions for some of our guests before we sign off for the day.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we just have time for maybe one question.
Okay, yep.
So maybe for you, I'll toss this to you. Briefly, we discussed several exciting projects. For residential developments, this is a question about parking. How does residential parking play a factor in approving those projects?
Okay. So it depends on the zoning district in the city, and there is a process by which, depending on where you're doing a project, the parking requirements are different. The reality is that if you're doing a housing project or apartment project, having parking sometimes can make a project more lucrative or more easy to rent. In some zoning districts of the city, there isn't a parking requirement, and others there is, and it really sort of depends project by project. But from the city standpoint, not from the private developer standpoint, from the city's standpoint, one of the exciting things about the Kevgar project that was mentioned there, which is the new parking garage for that section of Midtown near the courthouse, that is something which we have tried to do as sort of a public-private partnership to create an extension of the parking system and a real high-capacity garage. And we're doing that in partnership with Park Harrisburg. They've been very supportive of it. It's within the non-compete district. I don't want to get into a whole show on parking, and maybe we should have a whole show on parking, and maybe we can have the developers there to talk about it and folks from Park Harrisburg. But for now, the point is that if we can get that project through zoning, that's proof that we can develop new garages and we can move forward in ways that really address substantially the parking needs, even under the new creation of Park Harrisburg, in which the city has basically long-term leased its assets to the Commonwealth. So more on parking to come, but I know that's an issue. One more thing on parking. One of the interesting aspects of the affordable housing legislation that we've put forth is that there is, and this is something which is still being debated by City Council, but there are a series of incentives to developers who are interested in doing affordable housing projects. There are tax incentives, there are density incentives, there's street vacation, there are all sorts of incentives, but another incentive has to do with the amount of parking, because sometimes parking can be quite expensive to have to construct or deal with in addition to the project. So really the future for it is good, well-planned public parking garages, but those are expensive, and they need to be thought out in conjunction with development. But certainly demand for that now, at least in the Riley Street corridor. So long answer to parking, but we'll talk more about parking to come. Thank you for the questions. I want to thank all my guests for being here. Lot to talk about today. Great news. Brad, I want to thank you in particular for helping us put the slide presentation together. So appreciate that very much. And until next time, I'm Mayor Eric Papenfuss saying thank you for watching these community conversations, and we will see you next week and every week, Friday at noon, right here on Facebook Live.